Hey everyone, welcome back to Fusioneers. Today we're going to be making this luggage tag. This is a 3-part series, and this is just the first kind of basic luggage tag that we're going to make. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm in the Fusioneers folder here if you've been following along, and I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder and call it luggage tag. And then we're going to open the folder and then file, new design. And so now we're going to save this file as luggage tag basic. And then we should see it populate over here under luggage tag. And now we're going to make sure our origin's on. If it's not, you might have to click it over here. And then we're going to create a sketch. And I'm just going to do this front plane here. And as usual, we're going to use the center rectangle, which is pretty representative of a luggage tag. And then the values that I'm going to use here are 105. So I did some kind of measurements and estimations off camera. 105, and then 60 is about a regular luggage tag dimension. And then I'm going to make a little slot here, which is going to be for the whatever you attach the luggage tag to your luggage with. So you can use string, some thread, some zip ties, whatever you think would look good with your luggage. And then we're going to make the slot 6 millimeters wide, and then 16 is what I used, and turned out okay. And then I'm going to dimension this from here to here, let that be 10 millimeters. And then we're going to use the horizontal vertical constraint here, and so now it's fully constrained. And so this is a pretty good start. We're going to go ahead and click Finish Sketch. And then we're going to extrude this 3 millimeters. And then add fillets to the edges here. Click F for fillet, and then select the edges or the corners. And then let's make that 5 millimeters. And then the next thing I'd like to do is go ahead and add the chamfer. You don't really have to do this in any particular order, but adding the chamfer now is just something to kind of make it look more like the final design. I'm going to make a 1 millimeter chamfer, which is a pretty big chamfer, but it really just makes it look a little more refined. And in a future video, we'll actually split. Or not actually split, but we'll use this as a cutoff for changing the filament out to make it multicolored. But this video we're just making the basic design. Okay, so now we want to make the actual letters. So we're going to make a new sketch, create a sketch, and here on the front, and then we want to go to create text, and then I'm just going to draw it something like this for now. And then I've been using this Tahoma font. It looks pretty good overall. I'm just going to do my initials, JGW, and then let's just size this up to something like maybe 30. It's a little too big. Let's go 25. Maybe 20 will probably fit pretty good. And then make sure that you have pretty good character spacing. 5 is usually a good place to start. You might go up to 10 here just to make it a little more spaced out. And then yours might be defaulted to align left, so make sure you do align center and align middle, and then click OK. And then the other thing we need to do is dimension these out. So one kind of struggle that I have is, if you put this in the center of the part, that would actually be, these letters would be near to this slot. So a lot of times if I have a feature like this, I actually use this as one of the edges. So I dimension based off of that. I don't really know if that's technically right or not, but I'm just going to dimension everything 5 millimeters from the edge. And that's just a kind of arbitrary distance, but it's just so that everything lines up like we want it to. Okay, and so now we're constrained in that way. Some people might argue that you should use the standard edge, but then this J would be pretty close to the slot, so I think that this is probably preferable in this situation. So I'm going to click Finish Sketch, and I'm going to go ahead and just extrude this. So E for extrude, select the pattern, and we're going to go -1. And so now we have my initials on the front, and now we're going to flip over to the back and kind of do the same thing. So create sketch, I'm going to select this face, and then we're going to select text, and then just go ahead and just draw some arbitrary distance. And we're going to make this probably like 8 or so. And say Joseph Willis, probably need to make it smaller. And then also say, like, you could put your, I'm not going to put my phone number, but you know, you could put your phone number or email or contact information, whatever you want here down below. Let's go with 5 character spacing, and then maybe 5.0. So that's a little small, but you can imagine that you could also have like your phone number and address or whatever else you want to put on this, email, maybe 6 or 7, and you can kind of play with the sizes. I think that looks okay. And then you could also do 2 sketches if you wanted your name to be bigger than the content under it. You could just do 2 separate sketches, but for this situation, I'm just going to do like this. Click OK, and then we're going to dimension this again the same way we did the other one. So 5, I'm just going to do 5 all the way around. And then another one, 5. All right, and so that is how you do that. And now we're going to extrude this again, so -1. All right, so now we have the front and back. And then obviously, if you want to make it look a little more like what you're printing, you can color it and then turn the origin off. Another tip that some people might like is, instead of having these centered, you might do like a smaller version in the corner. So I'll just make that really quick too, just to give you an example. So just go back and make another sketch, use text, and then maybe you do something like that and just have like JGW here in the corner if you want kind of a more subtle thing going on. And then you can basically do the same thing. You might not dimension it quite as far. So something like that. And then you could, you know, play around with your distance and everything. So for instance here, I would probably try to drag this to where the W is, you know, within the boundary there. So I think something like that might look okay. So I'll just go ahead and extrude that, just give you an example. And so I'd probably delete this one obviously and just have this, but that's just another way that you could do something similar on the front. So I'm just going to undo that real quick. And so here is our design for the luggage tag holder. And so one thing I want to mention is I have pretty good success with using the Hilbert curve option when I 3D print these. So I'm just going to export it now to the slicer, and then we can pick back up there. All right, so now we have the part in the slicer, and what I would do, you can really do it either way, but basically I really recommend getting a textured plate. And then, so your texture plate side will have really good texture. So whatever side you kind of want to look the best, I would put that face down. And then on this side, if we just slice it regularly, it's going to have this rectilinear or linear pattern. But if we go into the print settings, and this should be available on most different printers, we want to go to the infill and then top fill pattern, and I really like the Hilbert curve. So if we go back here, reslice, you can see there that it's actually kind of like this little, almost a random pattern, but it's actually is kind of a repeating pattern, and this just makes it look a little bit better on this surface. It's a little rough, but I think just in general it makes things look a little bit more refined. And you can see here, adding the 5, the spacing of 5 is pretty necessary, because if you can imagine if these were closer, it'd be hard to determine those different letters. So You might even increase the spacing a little bit more on this side just because the letters are smaller. So that's another thing to consider, but on this side, it will span these pretty well, and this usually turns out pretty good on the face down side. So this is my recommendation for this part. In the next video, I'll show you how to do this in multicolor, and hopefully you'll enjoy that. So thanks for watching.